Okay, you guys, today I'm preaching a sermon, and this sermon is being preached for myself. So I hope you find it encouraging because I need to be encouraged. This sermon today is going to be about facing hardships as a mother and about having the right perspective towards them. These past couple weeks have felt really hard. There's been some really difficult moments. And it kind of started out a couple of weeks ago when my two daughters got sick, and then I got sick, then my husband got sick. And while we're all doing significantly better now, Cassie's still waking up a lot during the night, being very congested and coughing a lot. And so I haven't been sleeping very much. Add on to that the holidays, which were super fun, but of course they kind of get you out of a routine. And with little kids, that's just more difficult. And then also, Cassie is no longer in that kind of dreamy newborn stage that some newborns go through, and she definitely went through, where she just slept all the time and was really happy. She wants to be engaged. She wants to be a part of the group. And while that's really fun, it definitely makes getting things done much harder. And I struggle so much. I know I talk about this in a lot of videos, but I struggle so much when I feel like I'm being held back and I can't do the things that I feel like I need to get done that day, or I feel like my day was kind of wasted even though I worked the entire day taking care of my kids, especially my baby. It's been hard. Yesterday, I had my 2-year-old actually pray for me that mommy would be kind, because I just felt like I was getting really frustrated and I didn't like the feelings that I was having. So I think everything that I just said about motherhood being hard is constantly being promoted on Instagram, on Reels. We're constantly complaining about how hard motherhood is. And so I don't want to stop there. I want to remind myself and remind you all that anything of true value requires hard work. And I think that's the last bit of the story of motherhood being hard that is rarely mentioned. We just expect it to be easy. I need to remind myself that those that want to get good scores in college have to study for it. Those that want good marriages have to work for it. Those that want to be successful at their jobs have to put in the time and the energy. Motherhood is the same exact way. Anything of true value requires hard work. I know one of the best things I can do for myself is to do something hard. As a culture, I feel like we're really trying to get away from this idea of personal responsibility, of good things requiring hard work. We don't want to pay for things anymore. We expect everything to be free. We all want to be victims, and so we're not responsible for the way we treat others. We want sex without a relationship. We want all of these things, but we don't want to do the work that makes us truly satisfied when we achieve those accomplishments that we want instantaneously. And I think motherhood can be the same way. So I say that to say, don't be shocked that motherhood is hard. That being said, something I've found really encouraging, and I'm trying to get through this skull of mine, is that it is those little insignificant, sometimes frustrating moments as a mom that have eternal value. My mom read this verse to me the other day, and it was such an encouragement, and it is something I have not fully grasped in any way, but I know if I could grasp it, it would make those moments where I tend to get frustrated or irritated at my kids instead feel like an opportunity I can do something for eternity. So I want to read these verses. So this first set of verses is found in Matthew 25, and I'm going to start in 31. And it says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundations of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.' Then the righteous will answer him and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? Then the King, Christ, will answer and say unto them, Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it unto the least of these my brethren, you did it unto me. I know in times past when I have read this set of verses and I've stopped halfway through where Christ is talking about what these people have done in order to spend eternity with him, I have instantly been filled with a bit of fear, because it's not very often that I give homeless people water, or that I bring in a beggar off the streets, or that I go and visit someone in prison. That's not really what I have done in my lifetime. And so I know I've been fearful, like, oh, great, well, I haven't really done any of those things. And yet I find it so encouraging when you get to the end of the passage in verse 40, where it says, Inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. I know for myself, it's much easier to respond patiently and kindly to someone I interact with at the store than to constantly be patient towards my own children. I know with me, it's much easier and sounds much more exciting at times to go down onto the street and give people cups of water than it does to refill my daughter's sippy cup for like the 10th time that day. And yet, as mothers, I truly believe that my first and foremost service that I do unto God has to be towards my husband and towards my children. And that's ultimately what I'm going to be judged by. Not how kind I was to some random person I'll never see again, but how do I treat my children and my husband every single day that I'm with them. And that is both really encouraging and also a little bit scary because I don't always treat them as I know I should. The last verse that I wanted to read that I think is really encouraging to remember when motherhood feels hard or feels like it's not enough is Matthew 10:42, and it says, Whoever gives one of these little ones only a cup of cold water in the name of a disciple, assuredly I say to you, he shall by no means lose his reward. You guys, maybe I'm slow, but even this concept that it's not really how we treat the king or some super impressive Christian that comes to our church, but it's how we treat our kids. That's ultimately how we're treating Christ, is so hard of a concept for me to even grasp and for me to even understand completely how to apply into my life. But I do think, if I think of this verse in those moments that do feel really hard and do feel really difficult, and I feel like saying something that I'm going to regret, or I feel like just becoming frustrated about something that I shouldn't become frustrated about, the selfishness I have of just wanting to get things done, and I'm frustrated that my baby needs to be held while she goes to sleep, or something like that. I think if I just had this mindset that ultimately I'm not just doing this for my child, I am doing this as unto Christ, and there's a reward behind this that feels maybe very difficult at the time. I just think it would make those moments that feel really hard in motherhood, or feel like it's a lot of sacrifice and it's a lot of serving and you don't see a lot of fruit from it oftentimes right away. I just think if I had the right eternal perspective 100% of the time, which doesn't happen at all, it would make even those hard or difficult or frustrating or moments that feel like nothing's really going to change so much easier to not only endure, but to find beautiful and fulfilling.